You're live.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 64th week of the Free Assange Vigil. Today was day 1, week 3 of the second round of Julian Assange's extraordinary rendition hearing. I am joined today by a lot of people. We have Steve Johnson of Open News, we have Steve, Kendra, and then sitting next to me, I have Kimber and Christine. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for getting on the stream with us right now. But I did want to recap real quick our action that we did today out at the embassy, the British embassy. We probably were there from like 1 until almost 6, or 2 until almost 6. We got to play the as well as a couple other teach-in pieces about Julian Assange to the British embassy.
You need to repeat that. Your internet died.
So we did multiple teach-ins. We played the extra edition by CN Live for the British Embassy. We marched around, we yelled, we sidewalk chalked up the whole place because that's way harder to take down than ribbons and posters. So overall, pretty good time. I'd say we had probably about a dozen positive interactions, more or less, with the people coming by. But the goal there was literally just to have the British know that people are watching right now. So overall, I'd say it went really, really well. Yesterday morning, so Sunday morning, I actually went there at 7 a.m. because that's when the news ordinance lifts in D.C. Early. If I can coordinate it, I'll try to do it again while we're live streaming tomorrow. But that's a little bit more difficult. But I will give it a shot. But
I think Rob Juno was trying to say that we're really quiet. I don't know. Is everybody in the chat able to hear us?
Your audio keeps going in and out, Andrew. Like, it gets quiet, and then it gets loud, and then it gets quiet, and then it gets loud.
It's the internet here. It's terrible.
No, it's your shitty camera.
I mean, okay.
It was doing that this morning, too.
Yeah, no, I noticed that. That's why we didn't play the court piece in front of the British Embassy today. But how are you today, Steve?
I'm tired, man. I'm tired. I feel like I've been up since about 2 o'clock this morning, and yeah, I was telling Kendra earlier, like kind of bragging, like, haha, I don't have to think at work today. I had to think at work today, and it hurt. It did. My brain got partially broken. But other than that, I mean, fuck, still handsome, so that works.
And how's everything for you, Kendra, being outside of DC again?
Things are good. We had our rally 919, which you guys streamed, which was awesome. Thank you. And also thank you to Nico too. But things are well. I'm actually working on an update email for our group right now. I know we knew a lot of this information back in February, but I think it was still a pretty exciting day for the Assange case. So it was a happy day.
Yeah, definitely.
I gotta say, man, it is it does my cold dead heart like wonders to just be able to watch this prosecution get its ass handed to it day after day after day, and they brought in their third string attorney, little Bush League, Joel Smith, I think his name is.
I don't even know if he has a QC because I didn't see any like Queensport attached to him, so he may be directly from the U.S. sent over there. I'm not sure though.
I'm forever going to refer to the guy as Johnny Bush League now, because I'm kind of a dick and it's funny, I guess. It is the real reason for that, but man,
that's a really complicated answer, Steve. I was quoting John Lewis QC,
You white lady. Jeez.
I'm gonna have to request that we get more time because you're taking way too long.
Your answers are complex. That hurts my head.
But so just to do a quick court recap, because there was some
Where's my charger? Sorry.
So Joel Smith opened today for the prosecution, questioning Garoff, if I remember his name right.
You butchered it.
You just said Garar.
And essentially what Smith was trying to do, because he couldn't discredit him as a witness, he was attempting to discredit the people that Julian chose to work with him in the Cablegate releases, and also discrediting the timeline of events that happened for who and when information was getting released. But in pretty much a stroke of like lawyer genius from Garoff, whatever his name. Anyways,
because I don't want you to murder the poor man's name, I'm gonna double check here real quick.
But because of his testimony, the prosecution and the was Lee that published the information first by releasing the encryption keys in his book. So essentially, any culpable that
you've just cut out like 3 times.
Essentially what happened is any argument now that the prosecution tries to enter about the chain of events and who actually released the unredacted name of informants falls back to David Lee, who published the encryption key within his book, because the prosecution and judge were both forced to recognize the timeline of events where that encryption key was published first, Cryptome published second, followed by WikiLeaks on September 1st, 2011. So that actually got hashed out, and it's, in my opinion, should be enough to at least throw out a major portion of the case revolving around the disclosure of this information, because they were forced to admit that WikiLeaks did not release it first.
So for everyone's edification, the gentleman who was the witness this morning was Christian Grothoff.
Wow.
Not Gar. Like, I mean, maybe it sounds like that in the German. I don't know. It's been a while. Like, I took some of it in high school, but I don't, you know, my key pronunciation protocol is not what it used to be.
I think one of the other big wins of today's court proceedings too, I believe Julian, as normal, got to meet with his attorneys for 30 minutes before court started. They took a recess partway through court to give the defense team time to meet with Julian. It was about 10 minutes. So that way they could reconvene on how to present arguments. And then again, to discuss the witness portion, he was given about an hour to meet with his defense again, which this is literally the most, at least in public knowledge, that Julian has got to meet with his attorneys in almost 6 months, if not longer.
And how amazing is that too, to see how well the defense does anyway. You know, I mean, they've done such a great job. You can only think if they were meeting all the time, you know. And then one thing too that I wanted to bring up to the last point about the key that was published is, isn't this the same book too that the prosecution was using to try to get people to admit that Assange had, you know, said that quote that he had never said? And so it's kind of interesting how they made such a big deal out of this book, and then now here it is. You know,
and during the
back.
first week of the hearings too, they didn't actually let the discussion of the key and the time frames into the court proceedings. So this was the first time, I believe, the defense has actually got to lay out bit by bit who did what and when.
Well, and the frequency at which the prosecution quotes from David Lee and Luke Harding's book, and I even said this on Twitter today, like, because of that frequency, it really has to sting now, knowing that David Lee is responsible for serious criminal negligence, if not outright like trying to sabotage this organization.
I mean, if not being guilty of espionage himself.
Yeah. The way that it read from the testimony today, Julian's legal team basically put forth the argument that if anybody is going to get charged with anything in this whole fiasco, it ought to be David Lee, and it ought to be the Guardian, and it ought to be Der Freitag for, dropping the hey, it looks like this is a password article when they spent 15 minutes arguing over a timestamp and a time zone conversion about what day the password was made available, because WikiLeaks had realized what was going on and immediately put out a statement saying, "Hey, we had nothing to do with this. This is all David Lee in his book." And it really just it further drives home the point that the case as presented by the prosecution consists of nothing but innuendo and smears and the directives of intelligence agencies who had illegally obtained information. Nothing. We're just gonna let that fucking.
I didn't know if there was more or not. One of the other big developments out of court today was Vanessa Baraitser refusing to hear any argument about the revelation of U.S. torture programs. That she said it is not her purview to make a decision on that. When
she called it irrelevant.
When she doesn't have to make a ruling, all she has to do is allow the Senate Intelligence Committee report on torture to be presented and have it submitted as evidence, because it proves the torture programs that were existed independent of the court having to make a ruling. They just say, yes, here is the information, here's the U.S. government's own words about these torture programs. So that was pretty disheartening, because even after El-Mazari's statement, it was, and the subsequent article Sola wrote.
Re-say that last sentence you cut out.
The El-Mazi prosecution, or the El-Mazi information that came out, Khalid El-Mazi, the man who was renditioned and taken to the salt pits in Afghanistan, raped and tortured for a few months while they knew that he wasn't the right person, and then dropped off in, I believe, Albania with the luggage that he was getting. I think it was.
No, it was Albania, and they dropped him. They still had him blindfolded, and they were like, "Walk." And he thought he was shot in the back of the head for his trouble.
I mean, that's the amazing part of this too, is that day to me was really important as well. I mean, everything's just out now. So I really hope that we continue actually to see more support.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit this morning. The arc of the argument from the prosecution has gone from Julian Assange is not a journalist, and therefore the crimes that he committed have no protections that every other journalist on the planet would have. They couldn't go anywhere with that argument because witness after witness provided incontrovertible evidence that, yes, in fact, Julian Assange is a journalist and WikiLeaks is a publishing outlet. And here's, all of these stack of awards, and they're 100% accurate. Have never had to issue a retraction. And so they switch tacks to, okay, well, he's a journalist, but the United States has the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, perfect baby Jesus permission to prosecute journalists. We just do. That's who we are, and that's how we roll. And that isn't really working for him either. So then they tried, well, he released the name of informants, and the last couple of days of testimony have just shot every available space full of holes into that argument. So I'm not sure what they're going to be able to try other than to in this next or final week and a half throw absolutely everything they have in their little smear cannon to try and paint the man as some sort of dangerous hacker, or as it's alluded to in the superseding indictment, the double secret leader of Anonymous or some shit like that.
Yeah, pretty much the only thing In my opinion, that hasn't been addressed in court is the actual conspiracy to commit computer intrusion charge as it was re-released on June 24th, 2020. Because that's, like you were saying, revolving around Siggy and Sabu and that whole era of the feds setting up LulzSec specifically to try to entrap jury.
Well, and I would think that would come at the end. I would think that the defense would
Mute,
want
Andrew.
that.
We can't hear anything.
I would
It's
think
gone
that
now.
the defense would want that at the end to, because they're having to basically prepare for that now. So.
Mhm.
Well, this thing is pretty much like I know that we all have this sort of the feeling that berates are ruling in favor of rendition is a foregone conclusion. However, it was suggested during the first week that essentially what the defense is doing is laying out the foundational work for the appeals process, where they may get a much more open to reason magistrate. And if that's the case, like, those guys are going to bed happy every night. They could not overall have expected to do better than what they're doing right now, getting some small concessions from Beratzer, having her visibly show her frustration with James Lewis QC. And it's fascinating, man. Like, I was never one of those people that was like, oh, I want to watch a court trial. It's just never been something that, and I know there's a lot of people that do that. Like, I remember the Rodney King trial and how you couldn't get away from it because it was on TV every waking second of the entire duration.
OJ, man, OJ, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Every channel, like, every day until that thing was over.
Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, listen to that.
Here too.
Well, and we can see that in public, but we can't see. I mean, I am a person who likes court cases, and so I mean, I just feel I am so angered that we are not able to witness this ourselves. I mean, it's the free press. It has so much to do with us. It should be public. It's just, it's just ridiculous.
There has been more mainstream media coverage of the letter demanding Julian's release, signed by current and former heads of state, members of parliament, and attorneys, than there has Julian's actual hearing.
Of course, because I mean, I think that's part of the thing why they want it so closed, is because all of this has been about from the very beginning, right? Making sure that people don't actually read WikiLeaks and see what's been exposed.
To the detriment of the prosecution, because they've apparently never read WikiLeaks either. And they're trying to railroad this dude in court, and it is not going well.
We had actually discussed it a little bit earlier, this morning, how it's actually illegal for members of the national security state inside the U.S. that have security clearances to read WikiLeaks. If they don't have a security clearance at the level for the leaks disclosure, to the point that the U.S. banned it, like the WikiLeaks website, in most U.S. facilities for their employees to actually view. So it honestly put the prosecution at a disadvantage, like, in a good way, that they literally haven't been allowed to read these disclosures because they're literally just flailing in the dark. Like, they made a witness today look up a tweet that the defense had already put in their paperwork, but the prosecution was unaware of.
Yeah, they took another 15-minute recess for that shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was considerably less technological issues today, but there was considerably less court as well. More or less what we found out is that the prosecution's pissed that the prosecution wasted so much time. So they're trying to cut the witness list down because the prosecution has been endlessly wasting time with the 2-day scare after Lewis forgot his laptop charger and his paperwork at court. which was the first week, first and second week, basically set the court trial back almost 4 to 5 days at this point. And that's at the behest of the prosecution and the Queen's Court and Vanessa Breitzer herself that has done that.
I wish that instead of losing defense witnesses, they were going to be losing prosecution witnesses, but it doesn't look like it's going to break that way. The amount of time that has been wasted in this hearing from tech issues, there are far too many glitches to consider that coincidental, in my opinion.
We had, I hope I have his name right, Khalid Almazi. When he was going to testify,
Masri.
Masri.
El Masri is our friend Mo.
El Masri.
El Masri. The prosecution said, we don't want him to testify, that we'll read his statement and that is it. And then the judge was like, oh, well, we'll let him testify. And then there was tech issues that stopped him from testifying in the first place. So they could only read a torture victim's statement into court without allowing Ms. Dobbins to actually question him because of the technological issues.
Well, and it was so important. I think part of the reason too is that he's never been able to confront anybody from the U.S. So that might have been his, like, time to be able to even do that for somebody, representing the U.S. because he still hasn't had any justice, at least here, for that, for what he went through.
Absolutely.
No, the German government tried to have the CIA team that kidnapped him, tortured him, abused him, and then reverse renditioned. That's such a weird fucking phrase because it's not a reversal of the rendition, because it's not like you can ever recoup the fucking trauma that you went through.
No, life is never the same.
Yeah, that was just a term that had been used that I think kind of fits well how they dropped him back off.
But yeah, a German court did issue and open an investigation into the CIA team that picked him up because Khalid al-Masri also had German citizenship. So Germany could look into it. But surprise, they were heavily pressured by the U.S. government to let the investigation fall by the wayside. It would be optimal if on the other side of this whole trial we saw just a rash of fucking civil suits against the US government, against the CIA, against the UK court system, everyone involved in this complete stitch up. And I'm not a litigious person. I don't enjoy advocating going through lawyers. I think if lawyers are involved, it already got way too fucking out of hand. But this is one of those cases where it may be one of the only pathways to a little bit of if not retribution, rectification of some seriously egregious harm.
Absolutely.
With like the $2 words, I'm out of them. Out.
We also had at the end of the court trial, Cassandra Fairbanks' statements get read in. And that was something that we've actually been talking about since February. That this information has been in the public sphere since February, but there's just been no one willing to analyze it for whatever reason aside from us. And essentially the short of it, and I'm sure Steve will extrapolate more, is that Cassandra Fairbanks had foreknowledge about how Julian was going to be prosecuted under the Chelsea Manning leaks. She revealed that information to him, and in revealing that information to Julian, was able to essentially solidify the fact that the embassy was under surveillance.
Yeah, so the background on this, and again, when we were in DC in February, we were at the same event that Cass was at. We did like an impromptu interview with her in the hotel bar. The audio for it is pretty fucking hectic. Even though everybody like broke themselves trying to clean it up and get it to be a little bit more audible. But back in 2019, in January, I believe January, Cassandra Fairbanks had gone to visit Julian Assange in the embassy. She had like a book that she wanted him to sign for the guy that she was dating at the time, and like that was the I don't know if ruse is the right word, but that was the official reason for her going into the embassy. And while she's there, she tells Julian, "Hey, I've been put into this DM group on Twitter with a bunch of people in Trump's campaign. There are some, fairly high-ranking officials there. And this is what I've learned." And she tells him, not only are you going to be, illegally removed from here, but you're going to be charged specifically for the Manning leaks. And within 48 hours, Arthur Schwartz gets a hold of Cass, threatening, screaming, raging. How dare you tell Julian Assange what we're up to? Now, the only way he could have known that is if the counter surveillance measures that Julian Assange had employed inside the embassy weren't good enough to beat all of the surveillance of the U.S. government. So that was in and of itself a revelation. But another one that came out of that interview, which I do encourage you guys to go watch. I know a lot of people have very, very strong feelings about Cassandra Fairbanks, and like, I'm not telling you to like her or support her or kick in for her Antifa totally really tried to break into my house fund or anything like that, dude. That has nothing to do with the testimony in the statement, which in and of itself, on the face of information that is valuable, is totally worth listening to. God damn it. I just had to qualify why it's important to listen to this and got fucking lost about halfway into it. It's been a long day. Anywho, so we found out that Arthur Schwartz and Rick Grinnell, who is currently, I believe, the assistant director for the office of the Directorate of Intelligence here in ODNI in the States. He was at the time ambassador to Germany. The reason he got the ambassadorship is because Rick Grinnell was the back channel between the Trump administration and Lenin Moreno's administration, while Donald Trump's administration was conspiring to have Julian Assange illegally removed from the embassy. He was absolutely 100% under false pretenses brought out of there. There was never any due process whatsoever for him to lose Ecuadorian citizenship. He had been granted Ecuadorian citizenship by Rafael Correa. There was never just the slightest bit of discussion about whether or not Lenin Moreno was able to commit this unconstitutional to Ecuador act. And so you see the reward process that happens for these unelected officials who become part of the permanently entrenched intelligence apparatus in Washington, D.C. Yeah, I do. I recommend going and checking that out.
I think Jason Burmis has the best copy of that on his site. Like he got the audio cleaned up as much as it could.
Yeah, I think he has the captioning for it as well.
Yeah, we have the same audio, and I went back and because the audio, I think Anthony was the one who went back and cleaned it up, but Burmess went back and added subtitles because no matter how much we cleaned it up, it's still really garbled.
So that went down. We are going to, at least Andrew and I will be back bright and freaking early tomorrow morning to do more live coverage. And look, guys, it's fucking weird that it's just me and Andre doing this. It's weird. Like we're so very incredibly grateful to the people who have access to the audio and video feed who have been live tweeting about this, because if it weren't for them, none of us would know. We would have to rely on whatever, trickled out through mainstream media, or we'd all only be reading Craig Murray's accounts of it. And one of the I guess most educational things that has happened to me during this whole process is being able to see other people's perspectives, because the folks that are live tweeting are watching the exact same thing but interpreting events a little bit differently, each and every one of them. So you get a very significantly more clear picture of everything that is going on inside the courtroom this way. So I can't thank them enough, and I'm really trying to put together for Saturday's vigil a panel comprised solely of the journalists who have been able to have audio and video access to this every day, because I think that would be kick-ass. Yeah,
absolutely. And we probably need to cut it out and pull it and post it in and of itself, but we were honored to have Kevin Gostola join us this morning, and he'll probably be hopping in again tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have a few more people joining us in the morning as well. But Kevin's analysis of the court trial and his level of in-depth knowledge about this it's incredible to be able to be someone this close and still be able to ask him hey, what did you think about this? How did you interpret this statement? So if you guys haven't had a chance, definitely watch the Shadowproof recap. Try to get those clips of the good Kevin with us and get that put that up on the channels.
Have you guys briefed Christine on the history of Kevin?
No.
Is that okay? You get it.
So we have a running joke that the intelligence agent tasked with monitoring us, his name is Kevin, just to give a name to the faceless entity that harasses us online.
Yeah. We decided pretty early on that we were going to call him Kevin, and there's a guy out of the north of England, Alex, who hosts Red Star Radio. We decided that the GCHQ equivalent of Kevin was Trevor, and I believe the Australian Intelligence Services equivalent, I think we went with Nigel on that, but we should probably...
Yeah, it's Nigel.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember earlier in the show when I told you I was a little bit of a dick?
I think we figured out a Canadian one on the stream this morning too. I forgot what it is though.
Oh yeah? Oh god damn.
I think it's Pierre Poutine or something like that.
Okay. Fucking.
We'll have to ask Rob. We'll have to ask Rob when he's back in.
Fucking gravy toes.
So we have, just to keep talking.
Oh wait, real quick, let me answer a question in my chat for Kat Terrell, who says, "Isn't there a Kevin reporting every day?" Yeah, that's who was on the show. His name's Kevin Gostola.
That's the good Kevin.
Which is the good Kevin, Gosztola is how you spell that. He is the co-founder of Shadowproof, and has been putting out just incredible stuff through that site. And that guy, he's keeping a schedule like we are. That dude's running around and doing other interviews pretty much every day after this, and not just one outlet but multiple outlets. He is just fucking killing it. And yeah, and we're pretty amazed and humbled that that he hangs out with us in the morning for this. But again, we're the only people doing it, so got that like Democratic Party angle going. Where else you gonna go, Kevin?
Also, I think a lot of the court updates he's putting on dissenter.substack.com, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Dissenter is like a subheading in Shadowproof's website.
Okay, I didn't know if you had him on there as well.
I believe so, but if you go to Shadowproof, there's a thing that says the Dissenter, and then you click on that, and that's where most of this stuff is. Joe Loria also is doing a daily wrap up that starts at like 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, so noon East Coast, and there I did 12, 15, 20 minutes, and Joe is, I mean, pretty freaking legendary in his own right, and encapsulates the hearings in a much more concise and professional manner than me. But I didn't wake up this morning trying to be Joe Loria, so I don't feel any kind of bad about that.
Yeah, no, those updates have been great. That CN Live with Daniel Ellsberg and John Pilger. I mean, that's pretty legend. Excellent.
I just now realized you were back.
My phone died.
Didn't you say something about getting your charger before this?
Yep.
Just checking. Just checking.
But there was a helicopter that just passed. We were muted. Tomorrow we are going to be outside of Trump International Hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's nice and snug right between the Department of Justice and the White House, if you guys know the area on Pennsylvania Avenue at all. So I would like everybody to come out there. That will be all the White House Visitor Center, and we're going to set up out there, and we should have a special guest with a special live stream. I don't want to announce it too soon, but it is going to be quite awesome. On Thursday, we're actually doing something a little bit interesting. So there used to be a museum here called the Newseum, which was essentially like the Free Press Museum. Johns Hopkins University, the same people that put on Event 201. If you don't know what it is, look up.
Man, your audio keeps cutting in and out.
Of course, it freezes right when you're like, look up Event 201.
Look up Event 201. But Johns Hopkins purchased the museum, and I don't know if they sold it or what happened from that point, but it turned into hyper luxury apartment buildings directly, like right in the heart of downtown, and like walking distance of everything like Capitol Hill, the White House, all that stuff. But they still have a little bit of a museum in the front. They still have all the historical architecture. And the museum throughout activist culture has always been one of the places that people go to. They were always super friendly. They allowed people in there to protest. They allowed people up on the roofs to actually view and observe and film. So we're going to go outside of there on Thursday because it is still kind of a museum, but that's also where a lot of heavy hitters in DC have a flat per se. So that's going to be a pretty exciting event. And then on Friday, we are going back to the Lincoln Memorial, which is where we started on Monday of the first week. So we are super excited to be able to wrap it off the same way that we started it, with a good like 4 to 6 hour event at the Lincoln Memorial. Just
my favorite thing about the Lincoln Memorial was the way that the sound echoed off of the back of Old Abe, and to hear like McGovern and Bill Binney's voices just resonating all over the space there. Oh man, that was even cooler than being able to hold a puppy while being interviewed by RT.
I don't know if they posted that interview yet. I actually, that journalist was covering the Extinction Rebellion's protest that happened on Sunday. And I meant to ask him for a copy of that video because it is fucking hilarious. I have one picture, but I deleted everything on my phone, so I don't have any pictures of Steve doing that interview.
Fuck it all, the puppy. Sure, give me the puppy. Give me the puppy.
Steve literally puppy to chin, going over like extremely pertinent and like gut-wrenching information, essentially. So that was wonderful.
I mean, it was this is a memorable occasion. This is potentially the death of press freedom and investigative journalism, so you should give memorable interviews when you're discussing.
You can copy that at all costs.
Yeah.
But we are pushing 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. We do have to be up in 6 hours from now to kick off court coverage, if not a little bit earlier, to get set up in the morning. So I'd like to give anybody final thoughts, statements.
If you're in the DC area, come join us, and we'll be here for about 4 more days.
Mm-hmm. Steve?
Oh, sorry, I'll go. So you can find me, Kendra, at DMV Free JA. Actually, that's Denver Free Assange. Sorry, I'm also a little bit tired here. I am going to try to join you guys tomorrow morning. Andrew and Steve.
Hell yeah.
Are animals. I will do my best, you guys. It's not, there's no I will do my best. So, but anyway, thank you guys so much for doing that. Kimber, Christine, Andrew, I'm so glad you guys are there and being our voice in DC. Thank you.
Absolutely. If you would like to, you can follow us for Miss. We have.
You cut out after Jazz Heads.
Oh, okay. That's right where I wanted it to end. You can find us on Twitter at action_4Assange. You can find me at Andrew Zigmund, Zigmund. If you look in the description down below, we have 5 or 6 different call to actions. More are going to be coming out this week. I just want to make sure that the old ones aren't forgotten as we're going through this. I'm not going to run through them all, but they're all down there. Please take a moment.
You should probably send me those before the shows.
People. What?
You should send me those for the shows, so like the other channels we have that in the description as well.
They're right down there.
Not only in the channels on your restream, not on mine. So go to Action for Assange, people. It's all on our website.
I can't tell if it's frozen or if he's just embarrassed for being chastised on live interwebs.
I am also tired.
Are we to me yet? Is that where we are?
Yes.
Am I wrapping this
Sure.
thing?
You can find me at MeanPanda on Twitter because I'm back on Twitter. And then Christine, what's your username?
_ChrisXteen.
This is our friend from Extinction Rebellion, in case you guys are not familiar with her. She's been a great help while Andrew was out and had to go back for a week, and so she helped me hold down the fort for about 4 or 5 days. So I couldn't have done it without her. So please give her a follow, give her a shout out. She's been a huge help.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much, Christine. I fucking I hope we can figure out a way to get you a shirt or something like that and extra fucking nice.
Oh, wait, there's more.
She's officially a Gray Crew.
Yes. That's awesome. That makes me very happy. My name's Steve Boykin, and I host a show called Slow News Day. If you're looking for it on YouTube, you can type in Slow News Day Podcast into your browser there. I'm also on the Rockfin and DLive, and I'm actually, now that I have my Rockfin login on my computer again, I'm going to put out more content there. I believe Lee Camp will be on this Sunday. This Sunday or next Sunday, I'm not entirely sure yet. And if it's not this Sunday, then Juan Passarelli is going to be on. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you to everyone in the chat crews on multiple platforms. Thanks again to Nico House and the MC Network for letting us stream on their channel. It has been helpful for sure. and Kendra and Andre and Mean Panda and Christine and Sleepy Josh on the ones and twos. You guys fucking rock. I love you very much, and I'll see all of you, or at least a good chunk of you, at way too early tomorrow morning. Good luck to us all.